You're watching Tag TV.
Today is a commemoration day for Air India strike which happened in 1985. People are here still feeling the ache and the pains which it left afterwards.
It's a moment of remembrance. People, you will hear, time heals wounds. But it doesn't apply to tragedies like this. I cannot tell it to a girl who was hardly 6 months at that time, lost her mother. She was a hostess. She's now 33 years old, living in New York. She comes once in a while to this prayer meeting. Or I could not tell, it's impossible now, to a 84-year-old woman who had lost at that time his son, daughter-in-law, and 3 grandsons. A friend of mine whom I saw off at the airport when I saw off my late wife. Actually, I saw 4 families there. My late wife, of course. Then this family, a friend of mine, Mr. Shyam Sharma, his wife Sumitra Sharma. For those of you who are new and probably carrying the placards, she was the executive committee member, first member of the first executive committee of the first Hindu temple in Canada, Hindu Prarthana Samaj, Mrs. Sumitra Sharma. And I had the tragic, call it honor or disgrace or distress of identify her body in Cork before Mr. Sharma's family members came.
Well, I think it's important that we remember and grieve with those who are still suffering, the families that are left behind, friends, the members of the community. But I think it's also important that it be an opportunity for us to commit ourselves to making sure this kind of terrorist act that did get planned and executed largely here in Canada, that we never let this kind of thing happen again, and the thinking that lies behind it, that we make sure that kind of thinking has no place in our country, because it doesn't. It has no place in our way of life. It has no place anywhere in the world, but especially here in Canada. So I think that's going to require us to have events like this every year so that we remember, but also so that we make sure going forward that we make sure this is not acceptable in any way, shape or form, even thinking about it, talking about it or doing it. And that's why I'm here on behalf of all the people of Toronto who I know share that view.
And yes, it's true. Love reigns over all. Those wonderful words which are here and those wonderful words which were at the memorial in Cork. But it's also important that we remember that sometimes you have to fight to make love triumph.
Well, it's a solemn occasion, of course. Every year when the Air India bombing is remembered, it's very sad to know that all of these names on the wall here that we commemorate, we share the pain for their families that have lost them, and all those families that are still seeking justice. And I sympathize with them, and I think that their desire to seek justice is fair, and we should still work towards that. But what we've lost is it's just horrendous. The incident was horrendous. That's all I can say. And it's one of the worst incidences in Canada's history. And I think all Canadians feel sad when we think about this event.
Today we are remembering 329 lost lives and conveying solidarity with the families of those innocent lives. It's a very tragic day today, and we have to stand in solidarity with these victims. And of course, every speaker, including myself, has talked about that such kind of heinous crimes and violence are not acceptable in any civilized society.
For me, being a woman, I feel everybody was is still carrying that pain, and it was so strong in this gathering that I could feel it physically and brought tears to my eyes. It was almost like I was transported to that day and how they must have felt and how everybody must have taken this huge, humongous tragedy.
I was very touched by Bob Ray's comments. He spoke truth. He spoke about the fact, he recognized the fact that, you know, the justice hasn't been done yet on this case. And as Canadians, we haven't owned this tragedy as completely as we should be. But, you know, there's always hope. And when I see this memorial, when I see people from all walks of life, from everywhere, all communities come here, it gives me hope that in the end, the truth will triumph.
First of all, prayers to the Almighty. We lost, you know, so many lives. It was unfortunate.
पुरुषोत्तम गुरु तू सिद्ध बुद्ध तू स्कंद विनायक सविता पावक तू सविता पावक तू ब्रह्म मध्य तू यहोवा शक्ति तू ईशु पिता प्रभु तू रुद्र विष्णु तू राम कृष्ण तू रहीम ताऊ तू रहीम ताऊ तू वासुदेव तू विश्वरूप तू चिदानंद हरि तू अद्वैत तू अकाल निर्भय आत्मलिंग शिव तू आत्मलिंग शिव तू।
आज बहुत ही दुख और शर्म वाला दिन है। दुख मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि इतने जो ब्लास्ट हुआ, जो इतने लोग इतनी संख्या में मारे गए, उसका हम आज यहाँ पर एकत्रित होकर दुख मनाने के लिए एकत्रित हुए हैं। दूसरा शर्म इसलिए है कि जितने लोग मरे अभी तक जस्टिस सभी को नहीं मिल पाया, तो ये बहुत शर्म वाली बात है। ऐसे कब तक हम यहाँ पर एकत्रित होके और कैसे ये प्रोग्राम मनाते रहेंगे। और सभी को चाहिए कि एक मुठ होकर इसके खिलाफ जो खालिस्तान है, जब बाकी जो टेररिज्म है, उसके खिलाफ आज हमें प्रण करना चाहिए कि इकट्ठे होकर हम इसके खिलाफ लड़ते रहेंगे। भारत माता की जय।
I'm Chandrima Chakravarti. I teach at McMaster and I am actually doing an archive on the Air India tragedy. So I'm doing interviews with families and collecting memorabilia. So this day is special for me. This is a moment to come and sort of reconnect with the families who have been grieving for a long time but continue to grieve the loss. And my hope is that this becomes part of Canadian public memory and history, and this is not just an Indo-Canadian tragedy or a South Asian tragedy, but it is seen as a Canadian tragedy, and that's why I'm here, and I hope that has a resonance across Canada as a nation. Thank you.
बड़ी दुखद की बात है। हम तो परमात्मा से, अल्लाह से यही दुआ करते हैं कि इनको शांति मिले। तो हम इसी दौर से खुद गुजरे हुए हैं और हम इनके लिए शांति के लिए दुआ करते हैं।
It is very important for Canadian to remember this bombing, because I think that this was the worst terrorism activity on the soil of Canada, and it is very grim reminder to us that if we are not cautious enough, there is always a Canadian value. We should practice that, but we should also be aware of that there are evil people who are designing, whose design is to, you know, destroy our lives, and we should be united. Doesn't matter which party you belongs to. Unite when it comes to terrorism.
I think it is very important because this is a bad spot on the history of Canada, and it happened 33 years back. It was a bomb blast by terrorists, and this kind of big bomb blast never happened till today. And we are all together here to remember all those 329 people who died in this bomb blast.
Deeply sad and touched, and I heard the pains of those families, that healing would never ever occur. And what has shocked me is we Canadians in Canada is a peacemaking country. and the peace was disturbed from the soil of Canada. The act of terrorism happened from a peaceful society such as Canada. My sense is there are lessons for all of us Canadians that kind of violence that happened most in the 20th century continues to haunt us today in today's world. And today there was no better evidence than listening to those families. It was difficult for me to look into the eyes of those families.
Well, it's extremely important to remember the victims of the tragedy, and that reminds all the Canadians that this happened here. It was not a tragedy which happened somewhere in other parts of the world. The tragedy was conspired and executed and carried out in Canada. And the message is for the Canadian government and administration and investigating agencies to make sure that something like this does not happen again. While we remember those whom we lost in that tragedy, we keep on praying and pressing the politicians at the same time to take all these steps so that something like this does not occur.
You must have heard by now what people have given their opinion about this incident, how they feel as Canadian and what their response is to the society, what their hopes and their sadness for such events.
Purushottam Guru Tu, Siddha Buddha Tu, Skanda Vinayak, Savita Pavak Tu, Savita Pavak Tu, Brahma Madhya Tu, Yehova Shakti Tu, Ishu Pita Prabhu Tu, Rudra Vishnu Tu, Rama Krishna Tu, Rahim Tau Tu, Rahim Tau Tu, Vasudeva Tu, Vishwarupa Tu, Chintananda Hari Tu, Advaita Tu, Akala Nirbhay, Atmalinga Shiva Tu, Atmalinga Shiva Tu.